Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another week of Scurry and the Scrub. I am very excited for this week. We have two guests, and it'll be great because now we don't just have to listen to Matt and I ramble off about God knows what. We're going to have some real structure and some real insight this episode. So without me rambling too much, let's intro. I got my man, Tyler Clement, my former teammate, I guess maybe one of the best walk-ons to ever do it. I guess is that the highlight we can go with?
I mean, Doug was a walk-on his senior year, so
yeah. When you use that
Already
comparative
early with the negative, Matt, stop.
that's not negative. It's facts. Remember,
anyway.
Facts. We're done being reasonable.
Just give it a
It's
second.
facts.
Okay.
Facts.
Anyway.
Remember, forgot
All right,
that 2 weeks ago.
Anyway, and then we have our next guest, Jaylyn Agnew, the first ever Creighton women's draftee. I guess that's the we'll level that one.
Her.
Do you like to go with that? Is that your
that
your good intro point?
Sure.
Big East Player of the Year too, right?
Big East Player of the Year.
Yep.
We can go in there. Creighton fellow alumni, I guess. Weird.
Right?
You guys got to graduate though. I didn't get that. I'm still bitter about it. It's fine. But anyway, welcome guys. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah,
How
thanks
y'all
for having
doing?
us.
We're all good. 2020 was crazy year, I know, for everybody. So everyone doing well. Families, everyone good, first and foremost. And good health.
Just trying to stay healthy, basics, ready for this to be over, but everyone needs to stay masked up and distancing, okay? Preface that.
Absolutely.
Everyone listening, please keep doing that.
For sure. Tyler, how are you now, man? Everything
Doing well.
good? You're getting into coaching now, huh?
I am, yeah. We the season's still going on with a lot of COVID mandates, but things are going well here in Kansas City for me personally, and the family's good, so I can't really complain. Obviously, like everyone else has said, we're just looking forward to COVID being over and getting back to some normalcy, but everything's good on my end.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to whatever next steps are coming from this, for all purposes, sports, for everyone, just to get back to something to have. So it's good. But so you both are in KC.
I just signed up for
in Kansas.
I just signed up for like that vaccine update where they're like, "Hey, we'll tell you when you can come get your vaccine." That step, I just crossed that part of it off. So I'm a little bit more optimistic. I'm ready for them to tell me when I can come get my shot in like 4 months or whatever it's gonna be.
Literally.
Yeah. No, I hope we all can. So figure that out sooner than later, But so you guys are both in Kansas, KC, Missouri. Where are we all at now?
I'm in Wichita, so
You're in Wichita.
a couple hours from KC.
So back home. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I'm in Kansas City on the Kansas side, so both fellow Kansans here, yeah.
Oh, okay. That's what's up. So excited. I guess the first thing we could jump into really is just this with KC. If we want to jump into this Super Bowl, how we feeling?
We're obviously feeling good. Like, come on, you kidding me?
I mean, of course.
What's the spread? What's the spread? Is KC favored? Like, I haven't even checked.
Yeah, about 3.5.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's
kind of around that.
Wow. Okay, that's Brady can handle that.
That's what I'm saying. So now, I guess I don't get to come at it from a New England fan perspective, but the GOAT, like, how does it? Are you nervous at all? There's no nervousness, nothing.
Jaylyn, I'll let you go first. Yeah, you're confident.
Yeah, go ahead. Ladies first.
I don't know. It's funny, like when Matt asked me to do this because he said like Brady versus Chiefs fans versus like Tampa versus Chiefs. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, confident, excited. Just based on the post and everything from the guys, like I know them,
of course.
I feel like they feel pretty confident too. They're ready and, locked in, engaged. So, I think it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah. I'm excited too, Jordan. I'm interested, and we can come back to this later, how New England fans are looking at it. Are they Team Tom? Are they Team Belichick? Who they're rooting for in that scenario? I'm sure it's mixed, but for me, I'm excited for the game. I think we match up pretty well because I feel like we're like being here last year. We're not going to be as nervous. I don't think anybody will be as nervous, kind of going into the game as they would have been last year, having that experience. But the only thing I'm worried about from a Chiefs perspective would be like our offensive line if we can't protect Mahomes because we lost Eric Fisher, our right tackle last game, or left tackle last game. So like, that's going to be iffy because the Bucs have a pretty good defense. But other than that, I still feel good though. It's weird to be a Chiefs fan and not be worried like we used to be.
I swear there's a bunch of lies coming out of your guys' mouths right now because you guys have not you guys aren't shaking off this this Chiefs history yet. Like you got your ring, but you're still
5 days ago. Yeah, we would have been. Yeah, even going into the Super Bowl last year, we were obviously still nervous, and it's funny how that happens, but how quickly that happens. But obviously, it's still going to be probably a tough game. But I don't know, it's weird. This postseason was a lot weirder. I don't know how it was for you, Jaylyn, but like not being as like nervous. I was still really nervous going into the games, but it's like at the same time, it's like, all right, we should take care of business. And this is probably what Patriots fans have felt like forever.
It is. Yeah. It's the dynasty mode.
Yeah, dynasty mode.
I would say very similar. Like I'm like, okay, like we should win this, and then like I get to the beginning of the game, and I'm like, okay.
Then the nerves kick in when the game gets closer. Exactly. During the week, you're kind of like, nah, we should be good. And that'll be the same thing next week too. I think as the game actually happens, then it's like, oh, okay, here we go.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say Matt would be like, so how do you feel like 1 to 10? And I'm like, it's like the first quarter. I'm like, 11.
That's what I was gonna say. Like during the Cleveland game, what was it? I don't know. You guys weren't putting touchdowns on the board or whatever, so it was like they're in control, but they're not like dominating. And then Patrick gets choked out essentially, which is the weirdest like concussion protocol injury we've had so far. Like it wasn't a concussion; it was just like he went out.
Yeah, just got choked out.
Yeah,
he's good.
He just got choked out. All good. He can come back. Yeah. And then Cleveland starts making it a game a little bit, and so I was like, "What's your anxiety level at right now? Like 0 to 10?" I think the first update was like a 6, and then what did I say? Chad Henne started like driving a little bit, making some good plays, and I was like, "Andy Reid, the QB whisperer, like you guys are good." And then he throws that like arm punt.
Just like, what are you doing?
Like, where were you going with that ball, dude? And it gets picked. I go, oh my God, completely disregard. And she's like 11 right now. 11. Like, it's like, okay, this is going to be nerve wracking.
Yeah, no, that I should clarify. As soon as Mahomes went down that game, yes, the nerves were well above 10 at that point. Cause it's like, we're just hanging on for dear life and then hoping that it's like, okay. And then as soon as we won, it's like, okay, we can hopefully get him back next game, and obviously once he gets to the protocol. And so,
honestly, that was I don't mean to interrupt, but like I'm saying, that one was torture for me because I really thought it was going to end up being the Browns playing the Bills, and I've been giving my rants on this podcast for a little while that I hate the Bills because like it's just now everyone thinks it's the Bills' time to run our division.
It is,
and I'm like, what? And so anyway, I'm really upset about it and I don't like it. And like, I just also don't like Bills fans the same way like Stephen A. Smith doesn't like Cowboys fans. I just don't like Bills fans. And so like, I really thought I was like, oh, of course, now it's going to be Bills and Browns and the Bills are going to go to the Super Bowl. And I'm just going to be so upset because the Patriots just couldn't even.
I don't think anybody feels bad for you though.
It's fine. No one.
That's what I keep telling him.
That's why I have to. No, but sorry. This is why I have to get this out on this podcast because like no one feels bad for me. So this is my platform.
That's fair.
That's what I'm saying. 20 years. It's like, what do you want, man? God, like holy crap.
I'm spoiled. Let me be spoiled.
Well, I told you to hop on the Brady. I told you what did I say? It's okay to love again because Brady was.
I'm on it.
Starting to rip through.
He was
like, wait till they beat New Orleans, then I'll maybe.
The first 6 weeks.
Yeah. So I guess hit that. So who are you rooting for in the Super Bowl, and who are Patriots fans? Like what's the dynamic there as Patriots fans?
Most Patriots fans are all rooting for Tom Brady because they're like, this man delivered us 6 championships.
Yeah.
He's the GOAT. He's the
for
GOAT.
Now.
He's our GOAT. How can we not? And also with Gronk too, he's the guy. And there's just still so much. It's bought, man. TB12 brand. It's still everything. It's at every market. Anything. It's just there. They still sell Brady jerseys in the mall more than any jersey like you see anywhere or whatever. It's all Brady.
I would
And
like
so-
to veto the Gronk is still the man comment.
I was gonna say, yeah.
What?
That's just false.
Well, like, do you mean the man in the sense of like he's just obviously that dude, or are you saying Jaylyn like he's as far as best tight end?
Best tight end.
Oh yeah, no. That's what I mean. I mean, like in terms of what New
Just
England
he's
people-
Gronk. Yeah.
how
I-
they hold him at.
I
Yeah.
agree with that a little bit, but
That's what I mean. That because that's the thing. Like everybody's talking about the goat versus baby goat with Patrick and
Mhm.
and Brady, but it's like there's also some of that with Gronk and Travis. Like Gronk is like easily historically like the best tight end in the game, right? Like that's not you put that
Yeah,
one
I think it
away. You
depends
put
on
that
how
one
you
away.
look at
I
it.
already.
think Kelsey's gonna get it though. Kelsey's gonna get it
That's what I'm saying.
I
Yeah, so
think-
that's what I'm saying. It's like it's
I
almost
do,
like this
yeah.
is passing of the torch moment. So the
because
old dudes are sitting there going, if we get them this time, they can't pass us because we have the head to head. That's the one thing the LeBron and MJ Kobe thing never happened. There wasn't
Yeah.
ever the head to head clash
true.
to settle it. That's what
True.
Sundays.
Yeah, and
That's what Sunday's about. It's like goat versus baby goat. If
In
Patrick
both
gets him,
positions. In both positions.
yeah. If Patrick gets him, if Mahomes gets him, like he's gonna run away with this thing.
He's got a path. Yeah.
Yeah, but if Brady beats him again, because that'll be an AFC championship on Patrick's home field, right? And
Yeah.
that'll be a Super Bowl in Brady's home stadium. But that'll be 2-0. Like there won't be a path for Mahomes being the GOAT if he doesn't beat Brady in the Super Bowl. I don't.
Yeah. He'd have to win about 8
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowls to get there, basically. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's the GOAT talk in general is just hilarious. Like as a sports debate, the Jordan
it is.
MJ.
Of
Then
course, because now
there's so many different angles you can attack it, especially as a team sport. But it is, even as if you were a casual fan, not a fan of either team, it's pretty interesting to see as like you said, baby goat versus goat. That's what everyone's gonna want to talk about. So it's exciting.
I mean, it's just at the end of the day, who would you rather be? You'd rather be on the team that won. So that's how I associate it. Like, yeah, it's a team sport, but we know who's leading the show. So with Brady, and especially with Brady's run, if he finishes it off, like he went on the road to beat Breeze, he went on the road to beat Rodgers, and then he would beat Mahomes for the Super Bowl. Like
And 43 years old.
43, yeah, so
crazy
43.
resume.
That's
First
pretty
year with a
incredible.
new team that's never won the Super Bowl before or hasn't won it since what, 03?
2,
So-
2,
Yeah,
3,
okay.
whatever it was.
you guys are
Yeah,
making me
so-
nervous because you're like talking it, like speaking it into existence. I'm
He
like,
does this. No, he does this to me. He does this to me too.
That's my
He does
talent.
this to me too. He loves to like tell you the scenario you don't want to hear
Uh-huh.
I'm like,
and like make it sound so realistic to make you nervous. So it's
Yeah,
fine.
I've-
Just don't.
That's my main skill.
As a Chiefs fan, you don't play into his.
the baby goat versus goat talk, so I'm just getting more nervous again.
Well, I mean,
No, I'm excited.
that's the thing because you are facing the GOAT, so you have to deal with greatness to win. You're not facing San Francisco this year. Like San Francisco was kind of in the same boat as Kansas City. They were just that hungry team with that young quarterback that was kind of like trying to break through into dynasty mode, which is where we all agree KC's there, right? Like they're in dynasty mode right now. Patrick's 12-year contract, $400 trillion. What was it for? Like,
Yeah, that's the hope. I mean, I think obviously we get this one, it'll feel a lot better, but I think in the NFL you can't really like take things for granted, I guess, because it just changes years over years. So, like look at the Packers when they won with Rodgers, 10 years ago, they haven't even been back to the Super Bowl. Saints only got one with Breeze. So it's like, it's not that that's a nervous thing. It's just like you got to get multiple if you've got a guy like Mahomes and
If it's gonna
Andy
be a
Reid
dynasty, the
connect.
dynasty really doesn't start until 2.
At least I
It's
think
just-
you could argue that too is maybe not even a dynasty, but it's yeah. It's awesome.
I don't know. I just could never bet against Tom Brady.
okay.
Yeah, I just wouldn't bet against Brady. I couldn't ever get myself to ever say that. As much as I'm like, I think the Chiefs are a good team and I think they have a good chance of winning. I can't be like, oh no, they're gonna win. I've seen Tom Brady pull off things that I didn't even think he could pull off as a fan. So
Well, that's why I was telling you a couple weeks ago.
Not that I'm not a fan anymore.
It's okay to love again because
Shut up.
you don't bet against a goat. If a goat loses for you, it just like you have to take it because if you bet against him, you look like a fool most of the time.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Like you can't. And when Mahomes gets into that territory where he is, I mean, let's just say he wins this one and rips off more. You never bet against that, and you just got to live with taking the L if you ride with it and he loses. You know what I mean? It's got to shock you almost.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, you should never bet against him.
Jordan, how you were saying like Mahomes has more to lose or whatever. So would you say like, so for example, if Mahomes has more to lose, do you think like he'd be playing for more, like giving him that extra like oomph versus like Brady being like, sure, like obviously he wants it, like no one's not gonna want it, but he wants it, but like it's not as big for him, so it's like, you know what I mean? I don't know, like that's a good.
I get where you're coming from. Like I do think there is some. I guess there's a part of the Tom Brady. You could be like, wow, like he's 43, made it to the Super Bowl. He's like, what? Like more do I got? Like I'm here. Like now I just gotta whatever. And Mahomes is more so like, no, I gotta go get this because this dude's been doing it, and now it's like mine to go get. For sure, I think there's a little bit of that, but I don't think I think Tom Brady's such a competitor that he's like, nah, he's not even. He was only ready, like he really kicked in the drive. Like that's what I mean about the Tom Brady's and the LeBrons. They really just kick in the drive when the playoffs happen. I feel like this is what he's been plotting on, and I've like gone on for how I think he was so strategic about even going to Tampa Bay, where I was like, why is he going here? And then
Get out of the AFC.
Season, yeah. And then but then throughout the season to see like what their roster was and how like just was beneficial for him and everything that went on throughout the year and how then they get A, B and how that all goes. So I just thought now he's ready to I think he has an edge. I think both of them have an edge and both of them have like this
super competitive, both of them.
Yeah, super competitive. That I'm ready to prove something to whoever. They both have that I'm ready to prove something mentality to them that I think is about to come out in this Super Bowl, and I'm excited. I don't know, and I really, I wouldn't know who to say is really going to do it. I'm going with Tom just because I can't.
Why are you still wavering on this? What?
What do you mean wavering?
You like
because
I'm
I'm like
this whole like waffle and like I don't know who's gonna come.
I told you
I'm hoping for a good game. Like what?
No, I am. I'm hoping.
I thought
for
we crossed this bridge already. Where you're like
shootout, hella touchdowns. But I don't know. I gotta go with Tom Brady. I told Matt if you put a gun to my head and made me pick, I'm gonna go with Tom Brady. He was like, it shouldn't take all that.
It shouldn't take.
And I'm like, no, it does. Like I think the Chiefs are that good. Like I think the Chiefs are good.
Yeah.
So
you put a gun to my head, but you pick Michael Jordan number one. Like you don't have to put a gun to my head. I would pick him number one. It's fine. Like you don't.
Your brain's telling you that you want the Chiefs,
like,
but your heart's telling you Tom
I'm trying to make smart sports takes now. Like I'm not trying to like get on record and like I'm trying to like actually do this now. So I'm not trying to be ridiculous and dramatic, like and emotional. But yeah,
I don't know if you've been paying attention to the sports debate culture, but being emotional pays the bills these days, apparently. So
hot takes pay the bills.
Yeah, you got to come with the hottest takes and ride them.
So I think gun to the head is a pretty hot take. Like that's what it would take for me to have to bet even against Tom Brady. And
because you were super nervous against the Packers too. And you're like, why are you talking like they got this wrapped up? I'm like, because they have it wrapped up. Like Brady's got it.
Yeah, but Matt's also not stupid. Are you guys superstitious? Either of you?
I mean, I would say I am a little bit. Like we've been wearing like the same outfits
for games. Yeah, I did that when we played when the playoffs. I don't even remember the year when Malcolm Butler's interception. I wore the same sweatshirt every game of the playoffs.
Yeah,
Matt,
I've definitely done stuff like that before.
You've never met Matt. You've never been part of like a winning Sunday culture. Like you don't get it. Like,
I'm a Yankees fan. I'm a Bulls fan. Like I've won more championships.
It's different though when it's only once a week. Like Yankees, what are you gonna do every game? Like
yes. There's like 7-game series and
so how do you not get my superstition then? How do you not get like don't jinx this? Don't talk about
because I'm rooting for goats, man. I don't need to be superstitious when I got goats on my side. You understand what I'm saying to you? When I'm like rocking with like Jeter and Jordan, I don't need to worry because they're,
Oh, okay.
you know what I'm saying? They're winners.
Okay.
That's all they
Okay.
do.
Makes sense.
I don't worry
superstitious
about it.
about like literally everything. Like for example, the guys' game yesterday. My mom and I were watching it downstairs, and my dad was watching it upstairs, and wasn't obviously going so great. And my dad came downstairs and started pulling away. And he was like, "Well, I have to stay down here then." I'm like, "Yes, you do." Like little stuff like that. We like always do stuff like that. I don't know why, but or like when was it? KU like whenever, I don't even know. But we kept having to go to this restaurant every game because they were doing so well whenever we were just at that restaurant, and we went like every game, like an NCAA tournament. So we're like really superstitious about that. So I'll be repping my Trav jersey, just ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, you've been rocking the Trav jersey for game days like since the Wubble, right? Like that was your game day fit.
Game day fit. It was our first. I think it was our first game. You know, he commented on the Insta, so I was living my best life.
There you go.
I literally, I don't think like everyone in the Wubble knew like how hype I was. And then apparently this is like probably like weird information, but people were thinking that I was like dating some guy in the NFL because I was like so like freaking out about Trav. I'm like, dude, I wish like
I know.
Trav, yeah. But no, because they like people had overheard like how excited I was that he had like commented, and so people thought I was like dating someone in the NFL. It was crazy.
You're all like, why? Did you hear something? Does he like me?
Yeah, I'm like, someone taught me.
You know?
Quality. Exactly.
But I don't know. Like that's the thing with like superstition. Like I just don't know. That someone asked me last night on the post game podcast for the DePaul game. Like they were like, when were you confident that Creighton was going to win? And I was like, tip off, when they tipped the ball off because they're playing DePaul. And I mean, Max like 16-1 against DePaul now in his career. You can pretty much take that one to the bank, right? Like, why would you be nervous? Why would you be nervous for that?
TC, did you ever lose to DePaul?
We did probably like my redshirt freshman year, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that first game.
That was probably the game that we lost, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Never lost. Never.
Yeah.
Yes, but I mean, that's the only one. That's the only game.
That's got to be it. I'm guessing that was the year if I had to guess, but yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, when were you nervous? I mean, first of all, never. Like, they're playing DePaul. Like, DePaul is going to find a way to not win that game.
DePaul, yeah, I said that at the end.
Yeah. Not to mention, like, if we're just getting into that, like, I just feel like Charlie Moore's not. Sometimes I think with a point guard, if he's your best player, but he also is turnover prone and a volume shooter, I think there's like a net negative value to what he brings. So with him being out for DePaul, they didn't have a high turnover, high volume point guard on the floor for them. So I just felt like that made them better in a weird way.
They created more opportunities for other guys to get comfortable.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because what was that?
There's
The transfer went off.
Exactly. Yeah. There's something to that too from, our preparation standpoint. If you have Charlie Moore there, that's the guy we're going to focus on. That's who their offense is going to focus on.
Exactly.
And when that doesn't happen, then it's anybody's guess where that transfer went off. He hadn't been in that role yet, so it's tougher to prepare for, I guess. And obviously, every game's different, but I think there is something to say about that when a guy goes down that's not the main guy. The rest of the team can kind of just pick up the slack, and you don't really know who's going to do it if you're playing a team the first game like that without their guy. So interesting.
Yeah, I just don't get nervous like in situations like that. Sports don't make me nervous. I mean, sports make me nervous when, I don't know. I guess I'm trying to think like back to the Bulls days when I first got nervous for an MJ. When he started getting like a little bit older in his mid-30s and they were at the end of that run, like everything everybody saw on The Last Dance, that year was entirely nerve-wracking because the chemistry was off. You knew it was the end of the run, and you were like, please don't let them lose
the last
final year of this like amazing run. Don't let them go out on that note, And you just knew how like MJ wasn't right. His knees were busted up, and Scotty was always banged up, and Rodman was a loose cannon. And you're just like, this thing is a ticking time bomb. Can they actually get it to the finish line? And going 7 with Indy, and you're just like, geez. And it just, then the goat does the goat thing again, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right. That's why.
But this is what I think the difference is though. So like if you're gonna go Bulls and Yankees, the difference is that like in the Patriots dynasty, the reason I get nervous is like in the Patriots dynasty, like we lost those to the Giants, right?
Yeah.
And so it was like, yeah, even during the dynasty, we lost some. So even in the championship, it was like, yo, don't jinx this because like we've lost here before. Like 16-0, we've lost here before. And so I think that's where that comes from.
It's just a matter of you gotta have faith in your goat.
Why would you say that? You, I guess, like, yeah, but like but like Jeter and Mike rattled them off, just like
no, Jeter lost.
Brady was like, all right, I'm gonna get some here, I'm gonna lose some, I'm gonna get some more, I'm gonna lose probably one, and then I'm gonna get some more. Like,
yeah, I mean, Jeter lost to the D-backs. He lost to the D-backs. Like there was some. Gave up 3-0 lead against the Red Sox. There was some heartbreak in there. The Red Sox Red Sox were the first team to come back from. You want to know like championship heartbreak? Your rival, you're up 3-0 on them. You just absolutely worked them over like historically in Game 3, and then
I remember.
And then
it was great.
Dave Roberts decides to steal those stolen bases literally changed the whole rivalry because they were left for dead. And then all of a sudden they became a dynasty because they came back from 0-3 and now they just, we're going to win championships like it's our job now after 100 years of futility. That's what I mean. It flips quick. That's what you're dealing with now, Jordan, because your dynasty ended and you haven't fully embraced it yet.
And that's what hopefully the Chiefs are dealing with. Their futility is flipping now.
Yeah. Yeah. All it takes is like once you get over the hump, you take off running, essentially.
All it takes is a Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. It's not one of those like Ravens Super Bowls where they had like a, one of those lame duck non-franchise quarterbacks and they rode a good defense on a hot arm for the playoff run. Like Mahomes is like the future of the league. So Casey's always going to have a shot as long as he's good. Like if he's healthy and he's playing, everything they put around him will be fine. Like whatever you can say their defense isn't as good this year. Oh, he doesn't have as many pieces this year.
Yeah.
Mahomes is going to make it work. That's what goats do. So that's why baby goat versus father goat is what's going down on Sunday, because Brady has always had these questions with his teams, which Jordan is trying to highlight why he's nervous. But at the end of the day, he's always there.
I'm just nervous because I also I was preaching for the first all season, never bet against. I was saying never bet against Patrick Mahomes too. I was like, those are two dudes you just don't. And now I'm like, of course, now they're in the Super Bowl.
You're gonna bet against, yeah, exactly.
And I picked. I'm like loyal to Brady. I'm like, I can't say he's not gonna do it. He's gonna pull off some.
Let's forget the emotional part of it.
Thought he could do.
Let's forget the emotional part of it. Forget the emotional part where we're all nervous and trying to work around our feelings. Just call your shots. Like everybody, go on record because this thing goes down in a week, and there needs to be shame handed out after the fact. We can't just sit here and be like, yeah, I'm kind of nervous. We'll see what happens. Nope, we're not doing that today. So I'm rocking Brady because I believe he is the one true GOAT of NFL QBs. So there's just too much of a sample size for me. That I love Patrick. I think he's going to be the stud, but I've already seen Brady go into his house and beat him. So he already drew blood essentially for me. I'm like, okay, yeah, he already killed the false god once, and he's going to do it again. So
in his first year as a starter with terrible defense.
That's what I'm talking about. Bring that. Yes.
In which Mahomes put up 31 in the second half and then didn't get to touch the ball in overtime.
Why didn't he get to touch the ball in overtime though?
Because of the defense.
No.
Not because of Brady. Because we decided not to guard Element on any third down and just let him slant over the middle three straight times.
Who had the ball though? Oh, remember how? Yeah, that was just like the second over and over again. Remember
Rex Burkhead had the ball in the end zone.
Okay.
Shut up.
So that's the thing.
Why are we doing
I don't know who I was chatting with, but as soon as the Patriots won the toss for overtime,
Rexy.
It was over.
It's over.
It was going to be over either way. Yeah.
Ball game. However long this takes, it's ball game right here. Patrick can go to.
Well, let's do that. Let's do score predictions. That's what
I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do.
All right, go first, TC.
I've got Chiefs 37, Bucks 31.
Okay, so shootout. Jordan?
Yeah, but it's gonna be 37-24. Brady will kind of
Also,
get a
it's like
garbage
one of those.
touchdown. The Chiefs won't win by enough, just like everybody said all year.
Okay, so they cover the spread, but they're up double 2 touchdowns most of the way. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, see,
I think
the
so.
only way I see this going down where like Brady really makes a statement. So I'm gonna go like Bucks 41, Chiefs like 38.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I was expecting it like a 40.
I thought you were going like a blowout.
No,
there.
no.
I was gonna remind you that.
But for Brady, because bro, Brady to put up 41 in the Super Bowl at 43, that's gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
Or the yards he's gonna have to like. It's gonna be a go off game. I have a crazy. I guess it's a crazy prediction, but I think AB is gonna go off. I think it's gonna be Brady's gonna do his thing. It's gonna be a Brady classic.
Jaylyn?
Maybe I'm just maybe that's now I'm getting emotional on Brady. Maybe now I'm just getting hopeful on Brady again. Here we go.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I had to bring that out of you.
Whatever.
I literally suck at score predictions. Okay, so I don't even know like good football scores. That's probably bad, but
She thinks the Chiefs are gonna lose. That's what's coming out.
No, not at all. But I was gonna say like probably like TC like 30s, somewhere in the 30s. But I think we'll win by. I would say this is tough. I don't know if we're going to have a full touchdown, but I like the 3 to 6 range.
So you're taking the over.
So I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a 3-point spread. Do the Chiefs cover the spread? Basically, is what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't the thing like you always take the over? Isn't that what the thing? But yeah, I think that's what I think is gonna happen. Chiefs might get down at the beginning, but we're gonna bring it back up.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a Brady methodical type of game. I also love Tampa Bay's pass rush, and like Mahomes is he's got escapability and he can make ridiculous plays on the move. But if you get him early a couple times, he gets that little hobble going, and I worry about his health for like 30 minutes. So yeah, I feel like Tampa Bay's D-line is going to work over the Chiefs' O-line to the point where Mahomes is just constantly facing pressure. And I don't know. There's something about Brady when it's like game time that his O-line is just locked in and keeps him. But he also knows he has great feel in the pocket where he doesn't take like stupid hard hits. Whenever he feels the pressure, he kind of just lays down so he doesn't fumble or get blasted. He probably would die because he's an old man, right? So it's smart. So I think I'm going to go Tampa 31, Chiefs 23 because it'll get weird. They'll get weird trying to chase. They'll get weird trying to chase points.
You think Chiefs only 23?
I think at some point Tampa will be up 3 scores in this game. At some point.
Wow.
I think that's what like Mahomes will get beat up early. Tampa will build a 17-0 lead ish, and then it'll start getting weird where KC just starts ripping off drives, but there won't be enough. Like Brady will make enough plays to hold him off because that's what he does. So that's what I'm going with. I don't think it's like one of those where like it could be one of those where it's like the Atlanta game where KC gets off super hot. But I don't think when KC gets super hot, you shut them off. I think you're getting 50 at that point.
Yeah, I agree.
If KC's up 28-3, they're winning 55-10 is what I'm.
But I think if they're going to go up
50-40.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if Tampa's going up 3 touchdowns,
3 scores.
Mahomes is coming out 3 scores.
3 scores.
Okay, 3 scores.
Because their hope will still be alive. The hope, Mahomes can get too quick, and then it'll be a game again.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Tampa goes up 3 touchdowns, and you're only saying they're putting up. What did you say? 27.
23. 31-23.
Then I heard you wrong. Yeah. All right. We'll see. I'm excited.
Well, that's the thing. Like, remember when Jordan, you were asking, like, what's the motivation for both guys?
Mm-hmm.
I think Brady wants to just solidify it. I think every time they go into one of these games where it's like these are the 2 greats, and who's going to come out on top, I think he lives for that stuff.
Yeah.
He plays it cool in the media, but he wants to kick Mahomes' ass on Sunday.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I'm expecting.
I think you're underestimating how competitive Mahomes is.
Yeah, I was about to say they both want to kick each other's ass, definitely.
You hear about is how uber competitive he is with everything. It's awesome to hear because I don't think he's ever going to lose that drive. It's the same thing that's made Brady great is that drive. And so I think both guys, to your point, are super motivated to beat the other because they know they're going to be compared to each other. But
yeah, I believe you. I believe you. I do.
You've seen it with Brady. Yeah.
Yeah. I respect what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I just think Tampa's D line is going to hurt him physically. Like not just it's going to hurt bad. So it's going to be tough.
San Francisco hurt bad last year. And that was arguably one of Mahomes' worst ever games.
Yeah. By the way, I'm still mad that he got the Super Bowl MVP out of that one because what was that little running back?
Could have been Damian.
Yeah.
Williams.
Yes. That dude was absolutely the MVP of that game.
Well, Mahomes brought him back, though, with some big throws on those drives. So I could argue either way. Yeah.
Could you?
Yeah.
Okay. If you feel confident in that, that's fine. What do we want to get into next? Oh, yeah. Because we don't give a F on this podcast. Representing Tampa in the Super Bowl is an all-black coaching staff, right? All-black assistants, yeah. And that's kind of like that topic I brought up again because John Chaney got passed away on Friday at age 89. And I don't know if you guys he stopped coaching in 2006. I don't know how much you guys remember of him or know of him. Not to sound like the old man on the show, but I do remember like playing college basketball video games like back in the day when I was a kid. And I always liked rocking with Temple because I liked John Chaney. And I don't know. I always think like I'm a big believer in representation mattering. And even though he didn't represent me or where I come from, when you read stories about his background, like if anybody hasn't read it, go check out the Sports Illustrated piece on John Chaney from 1994. It was written by Gary Smith. And it's just like, where that man came from to become the coach and like the symbol in that community for, overcoming all the things that, people of color have to overcome to be successful at that level. It's jaw dropping. And for me, what it did for me as a kid is probably just seeing him on national television and seeing him coach at a high level probably went a long way to eliminating any like racial bias that might have seeped into my life growing up because I didn't come from neighborhoods with like diverse neighborhoods or diverse schools growing up. So it wasn't, and I probably didn't think about it as a kid, but I just think, our backgrounds, I think in a lot of ways shape what we think about these things as adults, these situations. And probably that's the one takeaway when I started to think about what John Chaney did for the Black community is definitely more profound than me. But I also know I was a fan back then and I can't explain why. And knowing what I know now and how I think about these situations now, I think what it did was because of what he represented and the background he came from, it just maybe helped some, subliminally eliminate any biases I might have had growing up in high school and in college and just going through life to where I would think a certain way about a certain type of people. And I think that's just what it did back then was probably more profound than I thought it would be growing up. But as I think back about it now, it might have done that. So, but I just wonder what representation means to like people of color, like, Jaylyn, like and Jordan, it's still not like where it should be because you look at the WNBA, for an example, Jaylyn, I think 89% of the league is either Black or women of color players, right? But yeah, you only have two, and this goes a little bit deeper. It's not just people of color, it's also gender. So you only have two Black head coaches in the WNBA, both of them are male. So you don't even have representation from a gender perspective, let alone backgrounds and racial shared experiences. And then for Jordan, like trying to find, some kind of footing in the professional realm of basketball. Like, do you want to go overseas and play? Do you want to be a coach because you're training kids now? What is, so like, just for the two of you, and Jaylyn, you can start, what does representation mean to you when you see someone, just broadly speaking, when you see someone that looks like you doing something that you maybe thought couldn't be done before?
Yeah. Well, first off, we now have a Black woman head coach in Dallas.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
she
right.
just got signed. So that's awesome. But I think of growing up as a kid. Obviously I'm mixed, light skin, whatever you want to say. And I remember growing up and watching like Candace Parker and Skylar Diggins, and I like wanted to be like them because literally like one thing about Skylar Diggins, I was like, we both have the same like curly hair. Like that was just like so cool for me to see like, hey, she has curly hair and she's like good at basketball. Like I want to do that. And like something like as simple as that, like pushed me to like want to be like her. And I was getting like, she always would wear her like thick headband like right here, like at the very top of her like forehead. And I literally was like, I want to wear a Skylar Diggins headband. Like I want to do that. And so like I rocked that for like 2 years in like middle school AAU just because, but like just like stuff like that growing up like allows you to see that you can do that. You can be like that. Someone that looks like you is that good, is put on that high of like a pedestal. Like it just gives you that like extra drive a little bit to want to be like that, and gives you that like you can be like that because someone looks like you that is there. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for me. That's like what I can think of like right off the bat as growing up. And now, like you said, 80, you said 89. Yeah, I don't even know, but at least 80% of the league is Black. And so I think that's just super cool. And hopefully, like we just had Vicki Johnson, I believe, is the first Black female head. Well, right now is the only Black female head coach in the league, and then hopefully, we get more, and then especially with our leadership in terms of ownership and all that type of stuff. I think that'll bring in more as well. So it's all kind of just like a cycle a little bit. And so you have to start somewhere. And I think that's where John Chaney was big too, because especially for him, his thing was opportunity for those kids in those tough backgrounds like he came from. And so just to give someone an opportunity to be able to show what they can do, no matter their race, how they grew up, how they live, I think it's just a big thing. And so I think, opportunity is just huge, and hopefully more Black coaches, more female coaches, and more Black female head coaches can get that opportunity as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Just to piggyback, like I think just in athletics, like growing up, just seeing people who play the sport you play that look like you is always motivating and inspiring in any way. So in that representation, that's always been huge. But I think now for me, even more importantly, getting into like media space and like trying to like be a better writer and all that, and knowing that there's people that look and have gone through similar experiences to myself that are in that space is definitely comforting and nice to like have. And I just still think like if you bring up opportunity, I still think it's still a select few that have that opportunity like at this day and age, like even like me and people that like are trying to get into that field still. So I think it's just the representation has been nice, but there's ways to go with it. And I just think that now with all the awareness being brought to it, it's huge, so we can take the steps towards the right direction. So I'm glad that it's even just something being talked about, and I'm glad that we're bringing more awareness to it. But I guess on an NFL level, like that's where I just think it can be more, because I think like for us, like I don't know, I think we've all had very unique and diverse coaching staffs in our experiences with Creighton athletics, and I just think that means so much. And so like for like to just bring it back to what Matt was saying about the Bucks, to have them be in the championship in this like first year that they put everything together, and like to have that like diverse coaching staff, I think credit to that, because I think we all just know like having diverse coaching staff goes a long way, and that's why I'm glad to see it ended up in a recipe for success. And I mean, you can go both sides. Like Chiefs too have very diverse coaching staff, and I guess if we're just bringing it to race, so I just think there's so much value to it, and that's what I mean. Like I even wanted to say, like I just wanted to bring up the point, like Tyler, what do you think? Even like I just think that having diverse coaching staffs means so much, and like there's a reason that those coaching staffs, and even I think to all our coaching staffs at Creighton, there's a reason why they were so successful. Like we had when we had such diversity on it and whatever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, to your point, it's just like having that diversity there, whether it's coaching staff or players, in general, with my experience, and I think this is kind of what Matt was alluding to at the beginning. It's like it opens up different perspectives, and that's ultimately what helps the conversation move forward, whether it's about social injustice, racial injustices, or just in general, just learning perspectives. And so, I agree 100% as far as having diverse coaching staffs. Number one, for people that are younger, looking up to that and see somebody that looks similar to them, they can aspire to be that. But more so, just even if the teams that are in place at the time can learn from people of different backgrounds, different experiences, et cetera, et cetera. And so, from my perspective, we talked a little bit about it at the beginning. I've gotten into high school coaching, and so I was really happy with our coaching staff earlier this year. And it would have been back in the summer when a lot of these, racial injustices and movements were really at the forefront. We're in the off season, but our head coach made it a point to organize Zooms just like this with all of our teams, because our basketball team is a mix of kids from different backgrounds. There's, white, black, rich, poor, it doesn't matter. It's quite a bit of a mix on our basketball team. And so our coach made it a point to where we wanted to further that conversation, even just within our teams, like, hey, what can we do better as a team? What can we do better as a school? And really, it's just like you were just alluding to a second ago, it's having that conversation. And that's what's been encouraging about the last year, is conversations are taking place that, should have been happening maybe, but just hadn't been for whatever reason, right, wrong, or indifferent. So, that's what I tried to kind of preach and bring to the table as an assistant coach on our team, is like, hey, look, I've, prior to going to Creighton, I maybe came up from a similar bubble that some of you guys are living in, because I went to the same high school. And going to Creighton, you have teammates that, come from all kinds of different backgrounds. You look at our teammates from all across the country, multiple countries, multiple races. And it's like, it changes your perspective for the better, I think, just to learn from different experiences and continue to evolve your way of thinking. And so it's kind of a long-winded answer to, I think it's just the beauty of conversation, the beauty of kind of understanding perspectives. And I think that's what Matt was getting to, is that perspective that he learned kind of as, secondhand, looking up at John Chaney. It's just like it's a different perspective, and it's an evolving perspective. And I think that helps everybody out in the long run.
Well, I think like that's the way we normalize it is by you normalize the conversation first, then you actually address the issues that are being highlighted in a structural way, right? So I think when when I talk about the kind of the inherent bias that I might have had as a child, had I been only exposed to a certain type of people, a certain culture, it's hard for you to learn and understand when they clash, right? Like who's right, who's wrong, do they belong together? And I'm not like justifying that behavior, but it's hard. I keep going back to the thing that Kyle Korver said when they had their conversation with Rachel Saunders and Josh Dotzler at the arena this fall, I think it was. He comes from that background too, that there's only a certain type of people that he's in his community, and it wasn't until he went out into the world that he learned that his eyes kind of opened a little bit wider. And I think it goes back to, you just don't know what you don't know, he said. And that statement stuck to me, because it's like, he's 100% right, because maybe you're not trying to cause harm to a certain culture or a certain race or a certain ethnicity, but just by your background if you don't have a diverse background, if you don't have a broader perspective on life and people that you interact with, it is hard for you to understand their plight. So you can say, well, I got problems too, just deal with them. You know what I'm saying? So you don't really relate to the structural systemic problems that like the Black community faces on a daily basis, because you haven't experienced it. So it's hard for you to understand it. You just don't know what you don't know. So I
It's
think
that perspective. Exactly. And
Yeah.
even then, I would say too, it's, obviously I still don't fully know what, the Black plight is, because again, I haven't experienced it personally, but I've been open to, at least to perspective wise, and I'm open to listening to it as well. And I think I think where you're headed to, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think that's kind of where you're headed to. It's like, that's the, beauty of getting that perspective, and, actually then being open to a conversation and listening to it and trying to, again, further the conversation.
Yeah, and that's what I think.
And I think
As when you look at the power structure, the decision makers are still predominantly white. So that's what I mean. Maybe there's just an inherent bias there to when you're in a hiring process, you're looking for people who share your qualities, share your background, because you can relate to all of those and and then maybe you can map it out in terms of a future outlook, right? In hiring, because you're like, okay, I know who I am, and I think I have good qualities that make me successful. So I should look for those in other people. And like, I think who did a study on it? I can't remember what study it came out, but it was, I think 82% of athletic directors in that basically make hires for college football and men's basketball, and obviously that includes women's basketball, because if they have men's basketball, that's a 1-to-1 because of Title IX. 82% of those athletic directors making those hires are white
males.
Yeah, yet your player background is, I think 54% of men's college basketball is African American, and 43% of the player base from women's college basketball is African American as well. So again, the power structure shifts downward. So you have predominantly white ADs hiring predominantly white coaches for the most part in the sport, who are then recruiting predominantly African American players. And I don't know. I think what the conversation hopefully does, by making it consistent, by normalizing it, by making it constant, we can flip that demographic a little bit, because I know that the narrative is just hire the best person for the job, but I don't. My pushback on that is always, isn't the best way to like teach something or to learn something and then teach it is by doing it yourself. Like, I understand there are other avenues to becoming a coach, but if you're playing, don't you have the best background to learning the game? I mean, how else do you understand the intricacies and nuances of what you're trying to do without having those film sessions, those practices, those game situations, all those repetitions that you had throughout your whole life of learning how to play the game? So it should translate, right? You shouldn't have these disparities between what the coaching base looks like versus what the player base looks like. Does that sound, I mean, am I wrong about that?
No.
Like, am I coming out from the right perspective?
I agree, but I just think what it is from a coaching perspective. I think it's that the coaching is a microcosm of just race, period, because it's like what we see. Even let's just put it on the NFL level. Like what we see is there's just not a lot of Black coaching trees, right? Like, because that's what this all is. Like the hiring process through all sports, it's like it's the network and the coaches networks and whatnot. So I think it's just we literally see a lack of Black coaching trees or what have you, or just minority coaching trees, whatnot. And then that's just because Black coaches have to prove more than white counterparts, and so there's less in that position because it's just been that way. And I think that that's been the way it has been for a long time. But now I think we're opening our eyes to realize, like, look at how many Black successful coaches there are in football in college that just never have been promoted or anything, because it was just like, oh, they were just having success where they're at, instead of being regarded like as a part of like a Belichick coaching tree, instead of having to prove yourself for however many years in a Southern Conference. I don't even know like what football leagues you can bring up, but still, I just think that these coaches don't get the credit that they deserve, and now we're talking about it. So I think we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, Jaylyn, what do you think is the impact of the conversation? Like, because you had a pretty unique perspective in the Wubble in Bradenton, because you had to react to the outside world from an isolated perspective, but you were with like-minded people who understood, who could relate to the situation, right? And I just wonder, in your experience down there, what did you learn about what the power of the conversation, the power of, speaking out when it's time to speak out and keeping it going and driving it forward in terms of how it can cultivate change? Because I don't know, if you would have felt, did you feel comfortable stepping into this space if you just go back to the person you were a year ago versus if you actually had to experience all these things this summer with the entire league, basically in coordination with the NBA too. And kind of, I remember you talked about how powerful that was for you. And I just wonder what you feel like the power of conversation can do if it's consistent and it doesn't go away and it doesn't die down in order to cultivate change that's actually meaningful.
Yeah, I mean, I think to your one point about if I would have been as comfortable, I think I would have, but probably I would have been comfortable, but not as comfortable, if that makes sense. Not that the league forced me, but they kind of did to just really like think about these things and really have a voice. But it was just so impactful being with everyone, like you said, like-minded people. Everyone, supporting each other too was a big thing. There's not like literally one person in the Wubble that was against, having Black Lives Matter on our jersey or on our jerseys or on our warm-up shirts, having Say Her Name, broadcasted before. I think it was just super impactful. I mean, we flipped the Senate in the WNBA, like just from conversation and
Power
like,
move.
Yeah, like it
For
obviously
sure.
has an impact. But as Black people and as women, I mean, women have obviously had this happening with them as well. With the WNBA, just as an example, like everyone looks at the WNBA and they're like, oh, girls can't play, blah, blah, all that fun stuff that all the trolls say. And so, it's like we're used to this too. And the fact that we are Black and women, it's just like, well, hell yeah, we're going to talk about it. Like we're like the two biggest, you know what I mean? Advocates for it. So yeah, it's just super impactful. Just have conversations, like you said, keep them consistent. Is just keep the voices out there. That was our big thing, I think, this summer too. Is just every game we had a new like person would say her name, whether it was Breonna Taylor. I'm like blanking on the names right now, but just literally just having that conversation out there and letting people know, like it just brings so much. We got more love for it than we got hate for it. I mean, I don't think anyone really like. I mean, the Senate was a different story, but just like even like I Say Her Name stuff, like it was just people talked about how it impacted them. And so it was just, I think, super great that we did that, super important. And the fact that we could just all come together too, as we should, as Black women.
Yeah, I think what you guys did too, and the NBA too. I mean, just the whole movement. I definitely was not comfortable stepping into this space and having. We were 7 episodes into this thing. We've been talking about it every week. If you had told me maybe in May to start this conversation, facilitate it, can you keep it going, I don't know if I would have been comfortable doing that. So this summer, as much as I thought my experiences in the world had pretty much centered me to understand that not everybody has it on equal footing, I don't think I would have been comfortable articulating it. And if I hadn't just tried to inform myself this summer of how it all starts. Like, it's not just, these aren't just isolated incidents that are causing uproar. The uproar comes from just one incident after another stacking up on top of each other, and it causes a lot of pain. I think that the pain part of it is what resonates with me the most. Is like, you see people players, coaches getting interviewed, and they can't even. They're professionals, so they're trained to lock it in when it comes to interviews and not show too much, not reveal the whole truth essentially. And they couldn't even stop from breaking down in real time on camera. And it's like, if the pain is bursting at the seams that badly, how can you not listen to it? How can you not try to understand it better? And I think that's what the summer did for me. And I'm glad that it kind of opened my eyes to what a platform can do if you continue to have useful conversations and try to listen to different perspectives, because the conversation will breed the change. If you normalize it and you make it consistent and you come at it from a good faith perspective, we will change the world like that. It will happen because awareness does that. And so from Tyler's perspective, like you said, dealing with a diverse team and having those conversations this summer, I'm wondering how much it opened your eyes, how much it changed you. To the same question of Jaylyn, would you have been comfortable a year ago, confident in your, ability to have a conversation like this and understand different perspectives as you were after what this summer did in terms of opening everybody's eyes a little bit wider?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would have been tougher, I think. I think one thing I could speak to for sure is let's say I have that conversation prior to going to Creighton or prior to experiencing, different backgrounds and cultures, then it's like my perspective is completely flipped in that regard, to where I do think, to your point though, last year, whether it was the summer or extended, spring, fall as well, like did further that conversation and made it a little bit more normalized to have that conversation to your point, where whether it's a year and a half ago, maybe I wouldn't have felt as comfortable or as sure of, being able to, voice that opinion. More so what I wanted to make sure I did in those conversations is because, like I said earlier, there was going to be guys in our program, freshman, sophomore, kids in high schools that maybe from their perspective, being, younger to 13, 14 years old, hadn't really gone out into the world, no fault to their own, but they might be thinking, they just don't know why we're talking about it. And so I guess I wanted to kind of put myself in their shoes and say, hey, look, you guys might not have gone out into the world yet, might have already be in your bubble right now, but there is some merit to listening to this conversation and trying to put yourself in other people's shoes. And so that was kind of where I wanted to put, myself in their shoes and make sure it wasn't just a waste of time from their perspective, in the sense of, hey, this is something worth talking about. This is something worth you listening. And, there's a reason why the conversation is starting to evolve. And so that was, I guess, my goal for that. And I'm glad our head coach kind of made it an initiative to have the conversation, because, obviously, it's not necessarily he saw it as a problem within our school, but he saw it as something that can still get improved within our school. And that's just a microcosm of, the country as a whole. So I think that was just something that it was cool that, our head coach did that. And I was, glad to be a small part of it, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to bring up, because you kind of have to follow somebody's lead from a position of leadership, right? They have to almost like invite you into that space a little bit. I think it was kind of easy to be emotional this summer, and I just tried to listen more before I formulated not how I felt about it, because I always felt pretty strongly, but how I wanted to articulate the what's wrong versus what's right versus how to make it mesh better. So, following athletes on social media, following the movement, listening to people, listening to podcasts, reading books, like you have to just educate yourself on that background and how those situations occur and why they occur, why some of them are intentional, to understand that it needs to be fixed, right? Otherwise, you just don't really relate to it. So I think, like, I don't know, for Jaylyn and Jordan, like, did you need someone in a position of leadership to take that first step and then, kind of metaphorically reach out their hand to you before you felt comfortable speaking out on your experiences and just the way you felt about these situations? Or did you feel inspired anyway by just the pain that came from this summer, because it's like enough is enough? Like, which one had more of an impact on your willingness to have this conversation to not worry about the ramifications and to keep driving it forward as much as possible?
I would say a little bit of both. Just like because in the league, I was obviously a rookie, and so as a rookie, you kind of just take a step back and like let everyone else talk. And you're like the
Right.
the 5-year vets, 8-year vets are going to talk, but I think especially on our team, Elizabeth Williams, she's on the executive committee for the Player Association. And she just did a good job of like talking with our team. And so I think she was that kind of hand, like telling us like, even though you're rookies, like you guys can talk, you guys can, do whatever, if we didn't feel comfortable. And so, like I said, a little bit of both, but I think especially in the wobble, it was more of getting that hand reaching out, extending to you because you are so young and you kind of let the older vets talk a little bit. So
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think for me, it was a lot of, like you said, like listening and kind of gauging how it was all. Just because I remember during, I guess, like probably a year ago, like, or when all this really started going on, I just kind of remember being like, there's going to be so many reactions either way. And then I just think in having, like I'm saying, like in having a diverse friend group, like I like to think I have, I don't like to make judgments too quickly about whatever it is and all that. So I really I didn't know what to think of everything really and who to really just like look towards, I guess, to answer your question. But I I really tried to like educate myself and just to be like, this is where we talked about progress. So I just really tried to understand what was progress versus what wasn't in that time. And I think I finally got to a place where I'm able to get that now, I guess, in short.
Are the things you didn't understand about it going in that you learned? I mean, I'm trying to. For me, it was an entire learning experience. There was nothing where I felt like I knew some issues because they've come up before. I think, the Trayvon Martin situation is one that probably had a pretty big impact back when it happened. So
I would say the
these
biggest
conversations were
impact,
normal already, but
I would say the thing for what really opened my eyes at that time is I think it was the first time I ever, because I never really was like into what are the policies and why does it, I think I just was like, oh, like this has happened in terms of like police brutality or whatever. I was like, oh, this has always happened in my life or whatever. I think that last year around this time was the first time or George Floyd, I should say, I'm saying it like it was last year, but was the first time I was like, oh, what are the policies? And I learned about police immunity and those kind of things. That was probably the first time I dived into that heavy type of understanding of what's actually going on. So,
yeah, Tyler, was there anything eye-opening for you that you feel like is relatable to the situation in sports? Because this is obviously we can weave down different avenues here with this, because I feel like we talked about it last week, right, Jordan? Like how it's all connected in some strange way. But like from the perspective of raising awareness to the disparity of leadership, right? Because if like I said before, if you need a hand to kind of guide you through it in order for you to first feel comfortable about being open about these situations and speaking your piece and not being afraid of what comes after it, should it be bad. What was there a moment where you're like, okay, the conversation should be normalized and here's why, and here's like who kind of inspired me to not be afraid to speak when it's time to speak. There's times to listen and there's times to talk. Was there a moment for you at all that you can recall, maybe not even this summer, maybe before, where you're just like, yeah, when these situations happen, it's important to show support through your voice and let people know that they don't go through this alone, as opposed to kind of being in that silent middle ground that feels one way about it but isn't vocal about it?
Yeah, I don't know if there was one particular moment, but more than anything, I think that time period last year, within the last year, was a conviction of, something I had thought about is, again, I talked about it before as far as, the act of listening and being open to people's perspectives. And I think that just confirmed it even more so, because a lot of times, especially last year, if there's people that you talk to, whether it's friends, acquaintances, people that you come across that are quick to dismiss it, then you're really like, I think for me, that's what it showed, where it's like, well, at the very least, you can at least listen to it. You may not agree 100%, and nobody is ever going to agree 100%. That's the beauty of diversity, but diversity of thought. And so I think more than anything, that's where I became even more, convicted in the sense of, just being open to hearing different perspectives, different, conversations. And at the end of the day, like I said, you're not going to agree 100% with everybody from every different background. That's just the way life is. That's almost the definition of, diversity of thought. And so I think for me, it was just about, maybe speaking up a little bit more when people are quick to dismiss, a conversation where it's like, well, maybe there is another perspective that you might not be thinking about. And so I don't know, that I think to me, there wasn't just one moment. It was just kind of cool to see the conversation just becoming a little bit more normalized.
Yeah, totally. I'm 100%. Jordan, I've crossed off everything on my list. You got anything
Man,
we want to tackle?
I'm glad. This was awesome. I don't want to keep y'all too long, but this has been great.
Yeah, we got a little trash talk in. We got our little reality in. But I mean, I do think it is important to keep this conversation going. We've all talked about why, but you just look around and it's like the NFL had 3 black head coaches going into the year. They fired one, they hired another. The Texans hired a 65-year-old. So it's like, does that really grow the opportunities for, minority coaches in the league? I don't think so. But Tampa Bay having their whole staff minority helps, like Jordan said, build that coaching tree a little bit, because if they can advance, then they can provide opportunities for other people like them. And that's how growth happens. So, but I do think the conversation is the linchpin for it all. It starts with that, because if you normalize that, then you normalize understanding. Like Tyler said, you normalize diversity of thought. So even if you're not in lockstep every single part of the way, you find that common ground, because there is a lot of common ground that isn't being utilized right now yet, right? And I think that's the whole thing. That's the whole point of a conversation, is to find common ground you didn't know existed, where you felt like, I've got my ways, you've got yours. And if we mingle in between there, that's our common ground. Like, no, there's more evolution there to happen. So conversations like this need to continue in order for that to happen. Normalize the conversation. You'll normalize the evolution of society, and you'll just normalize a better world for everybody. So that's the bottom line. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Jaylyn and Tyler, for taking your afternoon Sunday away to talk a little trash, to put your Chiefs predictions on the line, so we have them on the record, so that way when Brady goes full out, you're ready, the medicine's ready. I appreciate you guys hopping on. Hope it was a good time for you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Good to see you all.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, that was episode 7, everybody. Peace.